All right. Well, if you had printed the source sheets, you looked at the first line, and you know that this topic is all about matzah. But of course, this is not hilchas matzah, halachas matzah. This is yesod, the sod, the sod and the yesod, the secret and the foundational deep teachings, right, about matzah. So this opens up. I don't know if we've ever done. Have we ever done a mimer like on matzah before? Do you remember?
No, we haven't.
We
At
haven't.
least not
Okay,
in the
good.
number of years that I've been learning with you. No. And you
Okay,
started
good.
looking at the first line on page 22?
The bottom of page 22 on the right-hand column begins a new mimer,
Lavin.
the
Okay.
heavy print. Okay.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
the first, it opens with a few questions, a kind of nigladika kind of questions, which will be answered al pi Chassidus, but not tonight. We're going to we'll continue this next night. And I don't have my calendar with me. Do we have a third Tuesday, or is Tuesday night? When's
Let me grab my calendar. I'll tell you in a second.
The third will be Pesach.
The third will be Pesach.
We have
So
two more, and then the third will be Pesach.
Oh, we have tonight plus two, or
Yeah.
tonight and one. Okay, good.
Rosh Chodesh. It'll be the 6th and then the 10th and 11th,
Okay, so next,
13th, right?
Okay, so we'll continue. We'll
next
continue.
Tuesday is Vav. The following Tuesday is the last night before Pesach.
It's Bedikas Chametz, is it?
It's B'dikas Chametz night.
Yeah. So we have two. No. Hey, you know what? You know, we don't have to decide this now because we're
Of Nisan.
Right,
Next week we have Av Nisan, then Yud Gimel Nisan.
right. It's
And
Yud
then it'll be
Gimel.
Chol Hamoed. We have two more and then Chol Hamoed.
Right.
all right. So we're just going to continue. Lahavin, and I'm going to go slow, guys. So Lahavin Mashikosabe Haggadah. We all have the same language in our Haggadah about what the following is. Haggadah says, Matzah Zusha Eichlin. This matzah, the Bali Haggadah wrote, this matzah, why do we eat it? Okay? And the answer in Haggadah is Al Shem Ma. That's what Haggadah says. Why do we eat it? And the answer is Al Shem Shalahispik B'tzekas Labaseinu, right? Because there wasn't sufficient time for the dough to rise in the dough pans of our fathers. Kigorichu, because we were being pushed out. We had to run out. The mashma,
Of course,
which
it's true.
Huh?
It's not really true because we eat matzah because Hashem told us to.
All right. Well, okay. But then, so the question is, why did the Baal Haggadah write it this way? Why don't they say it that way? Right. So that's the question. The Baal Haggadah who are not like you, like me. There must be something to this. Even though, so you've raised the question that he will raise. But the words of the Haggadah are implying mashma ha'ilu loy gorshu, that if we hadn't been pushed out, the hispik lachmitz, and there had been sufficient time for the dough to rise, but as you said, that ain't true. Because we've already been commanded, we have a commandment, actually starting from the 10th of the month, al matzis umaredim yachaluhu, you should slaughter the korban pesach, or you should slaughter a cow, or a calf, that is, and eat it with bitter herbs and with matzah and bitter herbs. It's a positive commandment. Now, okay, maybe that was just for that day. Maybe that's not for the dairos. But in any case, it's certainly not the reason that we eat it is because there wasn't enough time to rise. There are other extenuating circumstances over here. And not to my thought, well, maybe it was for that night. No. The Gamla Doidus and Stabur, we have explicit words in the written Torah commanding Shivas Yomim, so early in Matzoh, that for 7 days, leaven should not be found. So your question, Hanan, is the question. Why do the Baal Haggadah say that the reason we're eating it is because lo yispik, yigorshu? Okay, well, okay, then finish that other piece. That for 7 days, leavening shouldn't be found b'chol mesh ve'seichim in all of your dwelling places. Peichlu matzos, you should eat matzos. But pasuk atzmai yesh lahavan. Now, in the pasuk itself, one has to understand. Right, we're eating it, and then it's a command for the doiros to eat it, to remember the going out of Egypt. right? Well, the going out of Egypt, Pesach Mitzrayim, any noyeg iser chometz ela yom echad. When we went out of Egypt, we were accustomed, and we were noyeg. We were accustomed to that the forbiddenness of chometz fell for only one day. Kedisa v'Gemara, as in Gemara and the Gemara Pesachim. So we have a few complications here. And that's intentional, right? And they're all from Torah. I mean, the Bali Haggadah. I mean, these are Bali Ruach HaKodesh. It says that the early Chachamim from those generations, many, if not all, were Bali Ruach HaKodesh. But it doesn't really matter. They stand, right, as authentic Torah, the Bali Haggadah. And that question, their reason doesn't seem to stem with the other things that we've been saying. Okay, so the Indian is this. Now here we start. We just start to dig in a little bit. The Indian is this. The Pesach Mitzrayim and Elohim. Oh, he said that. The Lochen Dafku Ki Gorshu. Right. So the first day of Pesach, we had to hustle out of there. Right. The Lochen Dafku Ki Gorshu. And so we're saying this, that on the first day of Pesach, yes, we were in a rush, right? And because we were in a rush, the dough didn't have time to rise. And what we're remembering is that one day of going out of Egypt. And therefore, Gam B'Shayim of Pesach, in the other days of Pesach, and Kohen Kosav HaMizrahi, another authority that we can rely on. The Parshas Re'eh, or Parshas Kipich Pozan Yetzosa, it says that we had to go with suddenness. Nevertheless, if it's all about remembering the one day, we could live with the Bikaki Gorshu. But it seems that it isn't really only about the one day, because we have a commandment, Sheshes Yomim Techal Matzos. 6th day you should eat matzahs. And for the doors, we have 7 days, actually, the first and the 7th, the Heim Zeichel L'Tzion Mitzrayim, and all the 7 days, including up through and until, but inclusive of Shvi Shel Pesach, when we cross the sea, are all remembrances of going out of Egypt. Okay, now it starts. Ulahaben Katzas Inyan Achilas Matzah. To understand a little bit about eating matzah. So here we're going to get into, this isn't about whether you're buying Shmira matzah, or whether you're Shmora matzah, or whether you're buying other kinds of matzah, square or matzah shiris or not. What's the inyan? So whenever we come across this in the mind, where we're saying, what's the innermost meaning what's the innermost truth about this thing that we can explore? So, and about the eating of this thing. So to do that, yesh lahachtim inyan moedim l'simcha. So to do this, and this is going to cover most of the page, we're going to talk about the difference between Moedim L'Simcha, which is the festivals, and Oinig Shabbos. And when we understand something about Simcha, which is connected with the Moedim, we will understand a little bit more about the Penimius of Matzah. So, Moedim L'Simcha. She'ikara Moedim Heim Bechinas HaSimcha, right? The main deal on Yom Tov is that we should be B'Simcha. We could deceive, right? It's commandment. You should be b'simcha on your chagim. Okay, now we have hit a piece of Kabbalah, right? Why simcha? Because Yom Tov, there's a revelation of what the Kabbalists call the brains of the mother. And we'll go a little bit and then we'll stop. The Hainu. What does it mean? Hachikosav behalal. In halal we say, Moishivi akeres abayis em habonim smecha. Now whether you understand it or not, you see that the pasuk that connects the mother with the children with simcha. The shivi akeres abayis, right? The barren one of the house becomes the mother of the children with simcha. And barrenness gets transformed into fruitfulness. And that's one of the inyanim of Pesach, that Akeres becomes fruitful. And that's connected with the mother. Now, just let me just, yeah.
I'm sorry. When we talk about the mother, do we mean mother in the sense of mother versus father, or mother in the sense of the mother of a midah going through the spheros, giving birth to the next sphera?
Both, but it's the
Both.
mother.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
the mother versus father. The father contributes what we know the male contributes to the process of creation of the embryo. The mother contributes, and the way we're looking at this is, and the way we always look at this is, the 10 sephiros up above, of which Bina, of course, is one, are reflected in the 10 powers that the soul has. The soul has 10 powers which are reflective of the 10 spheres, right? So Bina is the place that receives, Chokhmah is the male in the spheres, Bina is the female. Bina receives from male we'll call it metaphorical impregnation from the ayin, which is above Chokhmah. Above Chokhmah, which is the right brain, is the crown. And the crown is emblematic of that which is totally intangible, about which you could say nothing, which we call God's essence, where in essence there is, he is alone is, and there's no right, there's no left, there's no Chokhmah, no Bina, but Chokhmah inherits something of that. That's the miraculous. That's the place of godliness per se. And it comes down through Chokhmah, into Chokhmah, and that's passed on, infused, I'm using that word in quotes, into Bina. And Bina is where it all gestates and grows and transforms into Ema Bonim Semecha, into children, right? Yeah, into Das, and then ultimately all the way down until there's a Malchus. Malchus is a kingdom, or Malchus is a birth. It's something that, see, Malchus is the place where there's everything that's flown, dripped down, infused down into Malchus, now creates a whole new world, the next world. So in the same way, the infusion of the seminal drop into the womb gestates and grows and grows and grows until a new world comes out, which is what? That's the child, the new world. And now becomes a recapitulation of that, because the child has his or her own 10 spheres and just recapitulates that until they give off grandchildren and great-grandchildren, new worlds, right? I mean, it's spoken about, I know, not only in Chassidus, but probably in other places, that a human being is called an olam katan, a small world. Why? Because the human being reflects the spheros of the larger world. But go ahead, you wanted to say something?
No, thank you. I appreciate the explanation, because I was thinking about from both aspects, and I appreciate you clarifying that it truly is both aspects when you say mother.
Yep, mother. So that's right. Bina ema bonim smecha, right? And this is what we said, this is all beginning to explain what the Kabbalists call moichin de ema, the brains of the mother, meaning that part of the brain which is associated with mother, which is Bina. And Bina is where the children come from, and the children from the mother, and that's the source of joy. V'hine b'Shabbos, now in Shabbos, differentiated from that, hu gili moichin de Abba. Shabbos is the revelation of Chokhmah, the brain of the Father. And that aspect of brain or brains is much, much higher. And there you don't have on Shabbos simcha that you have on Yom Tov. And we're now going to explain what you do have. Right? We say this by Kiddush. There's a difference between oineg and simcha, and we'll speak about it. I mean, they're both very positive and very deep and very out of this world, kind of above rational kind of energies. Simcha, joy, you get happy from a tune, a music, a niggin, and if someone asks you why, you don't know why, it just resonates with you, So similarly, tainug, delight, that which you have. But what's the difference between simcha and delight? That's the difference between Yom Tov and Shabbos, which we'll explain. And all of this will somehow take us on a journey into understanding matzah and the different ways in which matzah has been expressed that we started with. Okay. So, where am I here? Okay.
Where are we now?
Well, I don't know. I'm looking myself.
I lost track.
Okay, hold on. Behine b'Shabbos. This is in the left-hand column. The line begins by Hallel. It's about 12 lines down. The Hallel. We said in Hallel, Me'shivya keres abayis emabanim smecha. Okay. Behine b'Shabbos. So it's not Bina, it's Chachma, which is higher than Bina. The Ein Sham Bichin is Gili Simcha, not like Yom Tov. So what's going on? Bir Mahus Moichin da Emor. So let's go back to the brains of the mother. That's Yuvan Mamashanai. That's understood from that which is known. Sheesh Beis Bichin is Gili Oren So Borgo. There are two ways in which God reveals his infinite light. One is the Bechina Histalshalis, where the light comes, a shilshul is a chain. It chains down from one level to another, like interlocking change. And that's in a Seder v'Hadraga. It's an order of madregas, of levels. Shehem Bechinas Hamshochas Me'ila La'ila. It goes from it's a drawing down from one cause to another cause. There's a cause and effect, and the effect becomes a cause for something else. And I don't know why, but even though I didn't play pool much when I was a kid, I always think of a pool stick hitting a cue ball. So imagine this: if a pool stick hits a cue ball, the cue ball could look behind itself and know exactly where its motion is coming from, because it feels the touch of the cue ball. And when the cue ball rolls and hits the eight ball can look behind it and know exactly what it is that's moving it, because it feels the touch, right? So that's a chain. That's the notion of Seder Stalshalis, with the fear of Chokhmah infusing something of itself into Bina, and Bina then into Das, etc., etc. Chesed Gevurah Tiferes. That's one way in which godliness drips down, chains down, emerges from a higher level to a lower level. It's called Seder Histalshalis, or Ilu V'Alul, cause and effect. Kimashal, now he uses a mashal, which is, I guess, more appropriate than my pool game. Kimashal Seichel Umidos, right? Seichel informs midos. You think about something, and you begin to feel something about it. And when you feel something about it, you want to resolve that feeling by getting some action. I mean, eating is a very good example. I'm hungry. And I'm feeling, that in my gut that I'm hungry. Now that, the thought came to me that I should eat, and I'm feeling it. And now I'm going to go after something specific. So there's a seichel goes down to midos, and the mido goes down to machshava. And in general, this whole chain of cause and effect is called yesh mi yesh, something from something. The thought is a something, gives rise to a midah, which is a something, the midah to a maisa, which is also a something. So that's called yesh mi yesh seder stalshalis. And then we have the second way in which God is active in the world, which is lamayla miseder stalshalis, which is higher than. And I think Elisa at least have been with me enough to know that I always like to translate lamayla as deeper than. Comes from a deeper level, because this word lamayla can apply up and down, but it's used to refer to even levels of godliness before there's any space, before there is up or down, or before there is any before and after, because kedim is also used to describe something, but they both mean something deeper. There's a deeper level. There's a deeper level than histalshalis, a yesh me'ayin, mamish, and this, then histalshalis, and this is called yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. This is where the result has no idea why what happened to it happened to it. This is one mashal that's given for this is you're walking down the street and you come across $100 bill, and it's just what? There it is, but you have no idea how it got there. It's a yesh, right? It's clearly a yesh. You even may deposit it in the bank, and it'll help a little bit. a little bit, not much. But where did it come from? You have no idea. So that's a yesh me'ayin. Me'ayin hamuchlat, from absolutely nothing. Now this also has to be taken advisedly, meaning that place where there is nothing, no thing. That'd be a better way to say it. No thingliness. It's not something you can touch, feel, describe, name. It's much deeper than that. And that's the yesh me'ayin is something that comes, sort of plops out of nowhere. Now, backing to the first modality, in a cause and effect relationship, when the effect, when the effect comes close to its cause, in other words, the pool ball looking back over and seeing where it came from. So when it comes close to its cause, this is looking from below to above, from the effect back up to the cause. Inihumasi gets ilosa, as I said before. It gets it. It knows where it came from. It knows what its cause is. And therefore, it makes it very happy. It's like when you see a loved one running toward you, a smile goes on your face. Why is it? Because you know who this person is. There's something known about this person. The relationship is, and it triggers something in you because of the close relationship between the cause, which is the small child, the nephew, whoever it is, running toward you, and you, because there's a relationship there. So that's called simcha. Makes you happy. But the simcha gedola commercial, and it's a great simcha, and he describes simcha, for instance, sort of close to the mashal I gave, but a little bit different, even perhaps more powerful. But mashal ben hamelech sheyetze min hashviha, when the son of the king comes out from captivity, right? How is it when the king sees his son coming out from captivity and running toward him? Who's sos v'soma? So he's happy, joyous. The simcha gedola, and it's a very great simcha. Commercial ben hamelech, and the child is very, very happy when he sees the face of his father. They get each other, and that getting leads to simcha. So kakti simcha sa'ilabah has galus niglas love or. So similarly, it is when the lower world, which is a yesh, has the experience of the upper yesh from which it came. So that's the source of great simcha lamaila, up in the godly realms. Takasasha yored b'vistalshalis, from the fact that godliness has come down and touched the lower world. V'nasa merochek rab b'neu ben ilosai, and that from that very great distance there was a touch between the two, the cause and the effect, and which had previously been rachak ma'or, when there previously had been a distance, like the closeness of the son when he's escaped, when he's freed from captivity, and they embrace each other. So that's a very, very big simcha when one which had been b'seisa hamadregos, in a level of concealment, comes into revelation. Because in this revelation, yeshle hasaga, they get each other. Where when the light, or the child, or the son, or the prince is coming out of a deep pit into light, or from morning to yomtov, or mishivud legeula, or from captivity to geula. Oh, there's back sort of on Mitzrayim, right? When we come from one state into another, from a state of captivity into a state of geula, that's an experience of simcha. And this is the Indian of Yom Tov. Gili HaSimcha, the revelation of Simcha, V'chinas Akeres Abayis, when the barren one of the house, when barrenness is changed into life. I mean, you all experience it, a very great Simcha. Nasa Ema Banim Semecha, and then when the mother and child hug each other, It's a huge thing. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Because he's now going to take another spin on a keros abayas. Pirush, very similar outcome, but very different. Ki akeres miloshin akora, umiloshin. Akora is also miloshin like ikar, root, right? Root. So a house is rooted in the ground. It's rooted in the ground either with pillars or by a foundation. And in that ground or foundation, there can be found ikora miloshin kechoilda, like this mole, this little creature that lives in the ground. Kechoilda zu, which is hadora, which that little mole, I don't know if it's a mole, I don't know the correct translation of kechoilda, truthfully. We could look it up. Maybe it's a mole. But this mole lives, Dora, she lives, be'ikre batim, in the roots of the house. And this is mentioned in the Gemara Parshas Basra de Pesachim, in the last parsha, in the last parak in Gemara Pesachim. The hihi bechinas malchus. So this mole that lives down under, right, that's in the earth. Remember, malchus is malchus, right? This is what he's saying here. The he bechinas malchus. Malchus is also earth, right? Mother Earth is the source of all gestation. And where is that? In the dirt. So Malchus is the bottom of all the 10 spheros, right? So Malchus is at this point, before it's fertilized, right? That's the other marshal, or before it's infused with the powers that will allow it to grow and to transform. So this is like this mole that's Shemulubeshes Kol Yomav Dechoil B'Biyah. So this is like Malchus, which is all the days of the week invested in the lower worlds. We're going to now contrast it with Yom Tov and Shabbos, right? Malchus is at the bottom. And what's the function of Malchus? Malchus is to create kingdom, which means to create...
I'm sorry, but Malchus is the 6 days of the week, or Malchus is Shabbos?
No. Malchus is always there. All the 10 spheros are always there.
Right.
But during the week, Malchus is mainly involved in birthing the lower worlds.
Okay.
That's its function, right? That's what it, as we say. Let's go back here. Bechinas Malchus shemulubeshes kol yomoiv dachoil. Malchus, as it's enclosed in all the days of the weekday, is in Biyah, in the Klippus Noga. The king is busy with his kingdom, right? On Shabbos, the Malchus is going to rest, and Malchus is going to have an aliyah. That happens Friday night.
So that's where the crown rises.
Right,
so
the crown rises, right.
Okay.
Malchus says, yeah, you're right. Malchus has a twofold, it's different than any other sphera. It has a twofold function. One, which is to receive, it's a makabel, right? To receive from all the other 9 spheros, particularly the last one, which is Yisod, which is the culmination of the male, and it's ingested into the female, Malchus. And then Malchus, after that ingestion, does a trick, which is totally not available to any other sphere. It takes what it got and it's going to transform it into something else. It's going to take that that zygote, and we'll use in the metaphor, and it's going to expand it. It's going to give limbs to it. It's going to give life to it, and it's going to expel it as a whole new world. So it's a receiver in the first place, and it's a creator, Melech Malchei Amlokim, the King of Kings, that creates a new kingdom. So it has a twofold function. That's why it's Malchus. Kingship and queenship go together. So on the one hand, the queen is the female receiver. That's the queen aspect of Malchus. And the king aspect of Malchus is its dominion over the next world, the lower world. And all 6 days of the week, Malchus is involved in that, being the dominion, being the one that's involved in the bringing godly energy to inform and continually bring into being the lower worlds. That's in Choil. She's involved with Biyah. And Bia is the world of Klippus Noiga. Now, we've talked about this before, that of the four worlds, this little construct Bia is the three lowest, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. And we live in the lowest of the third world, which is Asiya Gashmi, the physical world, the only world in which there's physicality. Above this is Asiya Ruchni, spiritual, and then all the other worlds are purely Ruchni, until you get to Atzilus, which is not just Ruchni, it's godly. In Atzilus, there's virtually no Tzimtzum whatsoever. There has to be some for it to become a world at all, but in Atzilus, he and his emanations are one. That's the translation of the words from the Zohar. Godliness is open in the world of Atzilus. But as you cross down into Bria, remember, the world of Bria is the word to create. Bora. Creation, technically speaking, the first world is an emanation, and the next world, the second world, is the creation. That's where stuff really starts taking on form and yeshusness, because there's more concealment. And where there's more concealment, remember, the concealment is like a shell covering over something soft inside, so we call it a klippa. And so in Bria begins the real experience of the klippas. At first, it's just klippas noga. It's a light klippa. It doesn't get really to be gimel klippas atameus, 3 unclean klippas, until you get down here where things are really, really covered over. So in the 6 days of the week, Malchus is mainly involved in that process of bringing into being and infusing let's call it, sort of not 100% accurate, but diluted Elokus into the lower worlds, and even into the world of Klippus Noga, into the life force which doesn't know or doesn't have the experience of Kedusha, of holiness. So Cain Pirush B'Sefer, this Sefer, I don't know, it's an abbreviation, and he says it's a Sefer from one of the Talmidim of the Ramban, and that Sefer, it explains what we just said. So that's 6 days of creation. Now, by Yom Tov, Malchus, Oila Lamaila, Malchus elevation, it gets an elevation into Atzilus, but not in, now there's 2 ways of elevation. There's Yom Tov and there's Shabbos, right? So the first is Bina. Bina is the lower of Chochmah and Bina. Yom Tov, Malchus gets an elevation into Atzilus, but where? In the Bechina of Ema Banim, the mother of the children. Bina, the Hasaga, and understanding in the Or Ein Sof, Hanigla, which is revealed. Oz, which is revealed then. She'or Ein Sof mistalshel v'yored Oz ba'oifen, that there, in that on Yom Tov, the Or Ein Sof comes down in the manner Shir derech umabi l'tefisis hasaga, that we can grasp something in our Bina faculty of godliness. And that we may not, these are words, but these are words to describe the feeling that we have on Yom Tov. Why do we have that feeling? It's not just because we're not working. It's because there's something going on cosmically that creates a day which is different than any other day of the week in Shabbos or any other day of the year. The difference is because the things down here are being elevated, so more of godliness is being exposed. And this is the Indian of Yom Tov, which is a revelation of Simcha, which comes from the Akeres Abayas, from the elevation. Now we're looking at Akeres Abayas not as the mother, but the elevation of Malchus. See, also, I guess it's important to just put on the table here that Malchus is called the daughter. In the language of Kabbalah, Chochmah is the father, Bina is the mother, and Malchus is the daughter, a chain. She's female, right, because she's receiving. She's going to be Melech also in the giving, but as she is a receiver, she's female, right? So she has a very direct connection with Bina. Bina is the mother, both females, right? She's from the Akeres Abayas, Nasa Ema Banim. And on Yom Tov, that lower world of Malchus, that mole or weasel in the dirt, so to speak, meaning the one that's having to do with more earthly, down-directed things, is raised up to a unity with her mother. And that's a great simcha when the daughter and mother are united. Pirish, kiakeres miloshin. Oh, we said it. Oh, we said it. I went too far up. I have to learn to keep my finger in the place. Second. Okay, the line begins with or. So there's an experience of an or gadol. You have the place?
No, I don't.
This is a little lower than halfway down in the second column. Or gadol.
Okay. Argadol, who?
Or gadol, who gili
Okay.
or Ein Sof Baruch Hu, which is revelation of the Ein Sof Baruch Hu. Hamizgala b'bechinas yesh v'hasaga, which is revealed in a way that's a bina function, so we can have some tangibility with it. Lies eza tefisa, as he said, we have some grasp. The hasaga, the or penei melech, in the light of the face of the king. Hamizgala oz, which is revealed then. Period. Ukamei al derech mashal haneshama. This revelation and experience that we have, which, as I said earlier, we know that there's a different feeling, but this is why there's a different feeling. The different feeling is because of this closeness that's occurring. Malchus, everything down here is like the weasel, the mole is getting an elevation up closer to its source, right? So,
You say weasel the mole, Rabbi? Joking.
yeah, I need a good translation of a hulda. You could look it up in
Hold
the
on.
book.
I don't think you want to say a
Hulda.
mole. That doesn't ring so well.
No, but it's not supposed to ring so well.
Okay.
It's supposed
okay.
to be that it's something that lives in the dirt underneath the house, right? That's how he describes Malchus during the week. It's dealing with the underbelly of things. And
How does Malchus become revealed, if I may ask? Is it on Shabbos?
Well, we're here first on Yom Tov, and
Yeah.
then of course, and then it has a higher aliyah on Shabbos. That's correct. So, and now he uses another mashal. Adar mashal haneshama, the soul. Shemisaneges be'olam haba, who is having pleasure in the world to come. Miziv hashechina. This is an analogy for Yom Tov. There's a ray of divinity, divine energy, being revealed here that isn't revealed during the normal days of the week, and that's like the pleasure that the soul has when it's in olam haba, when it gets a ziv, a ray of the Shekhinah, when it has been relieved from its enclothement in a physical body, when and separates from there. So the worlds there's a separation, there's a raising up, which is separating Malchus from his involvement with Klippus Noga. It's coming out of the dirt. I mean, I'm using that because that's the mashal he uses it. It's coming out of the dirt and being raised up level after level, and being separated. And this is like what occurs when the soul is released from the body. There's a separation from it being entangled in the lower levels of things, and it has a revelation of a aura of the Shekhinah. The Nifredes Misham, it's been separated from them, but also Lemakar HaChaitzpah, and it goes up to the source from whence it was created. This is the metaphor of the soul separating out from the body. Like Malchus, the creature in the dirt, separating itself out from lower things, the world of Biyah, and going up into Atzilus. Shemisaneges began Eden Elgin, where the soul now is able to experience something that it couldn't experience before when it's in the higher levels of Gan Eden. And then it's Meziv, and it's having a pleasure from Meziv and Shekhinah. This is a Hana v'Hanhaga Niflo. This is the Ha'oinig Niflo. This is a pleasure and a wondrous delight. Well, Zenemar Hanchil Oivayesh, and it says this is a pasuk that means that a person can inherit. The one who loves me will inherit a lot, and it means here simply a lot of gold, a lot of money. But figuratively, metaphorically, means the ones who love me will inherit the yesh. The yesh will now be infused with a value. The yesh meaning us, the yesh or the neshama when it's out of the body, will be infused with a value that it didn't have before. There will be a revelation of the infinite light in the yesh, in the body, us down here below on Yontav, or in the soul, which is a created being, a created thing after all, will have an experience of the Hashuros Shekhinah, the dwelling of the Shekhinah, which it didn't have when it was in the body. There will come to the neshama a grasping, have a pleasure in the ziva and the aura of this, and the light that we said above. The neshama will have some real understanding, real grasping of that which was rather, well, I don't know, I'm doing it with my head. What's the word for this? Not graspable down here when
It's hard to grasp before, and if anything, I think this is the perfect time for me to interject something. That Huldah is translated in terms of Parak Shira as a rat.
A rat.
And not only is Huldah translated as a rat, but literally can live in a sewer, a hole under a house, and where life isn't easy. And it actually goes into, in terms of Mefarshim, explanations of how the air can sometimes be stagnant, even toxic, and a rat cannot take air for granted. And so on the contrary, they are grateful for the air, and what the rat actually, the Huldah says, is actually, let every soul praise Hashem, hallelujah. Amar kol neshama tahalelka, hallelujah. That's exactly what you're saying. That in terms, and it talks about the neshima, the air, with the neshama.
Well, where are you reading this from?
Parak Shira.
Wow. Yeah, okay, well, great, thank you. Exactly right on our point, but with a lot of clarification. Very good. So, v'zehu b'nahar yavru beregel. Now we're on another metaphor, right? That when we went out, we crossed the river on our foot. The sham nismecho boy, right? We'll say, where do we say this? In Hallel, I think, no? Nahar yavru beregel, sham nismecho boy? No answer? Okay. But regel is a foot. But the Yom Tovim we call regolim, right? And it's sholish regolim. The feet go up to Yerushalayim. So it's the same metaphor, and it's beautiful to me. There's so many different angles of saying the same thing. Different metaphors for saying the same thing. From coming out of the dirt, coming out of below, coming with your foot up to, now getting your foot more up to your head, which is Yerushalayim, which is the sholish regolim. As he says right here, the Shleish Regalim, the Sham Hu Mokar HaSimcha. And there is the source of Simcha. And we have some fine print, if you're looking where we're holding. That's the only place in the page we have some fine print in parentheses. Mikol Zehu Bibichinis Moichin Da'ema. And all of this is because of the aura, this is a metaphor also, ray of light. There's no real, this is how Chassidus and Kabbalah describe the effusion of godliness as light. And all of this is because of the effusion, the particular infusion that's coming from the head, the Godhead, but from the Bina part of the Godhead. Olam Haba, which is equal to Olam Haba, Gan Eden, Elyon, Olam Elyon, Gili Hatainig Neshamas, which is the revelation of the light from the Neshamas, Lefi Hasagosam, according to what they can grasp. Now let's talk about Shabbos. And you couldn't possibly be wondering what all this has to do with matzah. And it's good that you're wondering that if you are, but we're not going to get to it yet. But this is the platform for which we're going to understand it. But now we got the other piece to deal with, which is Shabbos. What's the difference between Shabbos and Yom Tov? We understand now, hopefully, I think we do, what's going on Yom Tov. Avo, Moichin the Abba, the Chochmah, the brains of the Father, which is Chochmah. Chochmah me'ayin timotze. That's what I alluded to before. That Chochmah, this is in the pshat of the Torah, is a question. Chochmah, where does it come from? In Chassidus is a statement. You want to know where Chochmah comes from? It comes from the ayin. Me'ayin timsa. Chokmah me'ayin timsa. Chokmah is found from the ayin, which is nikra ma. Ma she'enu musik. Ayin, even though we call it nothing, and you've set it up before, it's ayin muchlat. It's absolutely nothing. You have
It's
to
ayin
know
what? Ayin what?
muchlat,
Muchla. Okay.
muchlat, absolutely nothing. But what it is, it's a level that's ena musag lamaila maila. It can't be grasped. It's a nothing because it can't be grasped. It's lamaila maila b'chinas bina, much higher. Chokhmah has a relationship to bina. Chokhmah is an intermediary between ayin and yesh, so it has a relationship to ayin. But ayin per se is totally inaccessible, totally removed from any yesh if it weren't for the faculty of Chokhmah. And this is also, in the Adam Katan also. Our Chokhmah is our gateway to inspiration, is a gateway to illumination and inspiration that is not yet tangible. It's the feeling of the creative moment, when something sort of falls into your head from nowhere in a situation. Aha, I got an idea. Okay, where did it come from? I don't know. So that's an ayin also. And once it gets into the brain, now you can elaborate on it and grasp it and shape it and get it down from bina, which is the grasping of it, into the midos. But it comes from much higher. And bina doesn't have that contact, that direct contact. Bina was the hainu, shemizgala bechinas or ein saborcho. In Chokhmah, there's a revelation of the or ein saborcho, ma deles machshava tefisa, which is something that thought cannot grasp. It's an ungraspable experience of something above rationality, above what we call the brain, the rational brain. But we know, of course we know that there are deeper levels of the brain and of consciousness than our rational consciousness, and those deeper levels what Freud called the subconscious or the unconscious are analogous to those levels of Elikus, which we call the ayin, because we have no direct contact with it. Well, I need lahanos boy, so it doesn't give us hanoah. Hanoah is connected with bina, that kind of pleasure. Because we can't touch it, we can't grasp it, we can't hold it, we can't understand it. This is a kind of pleasure, which we'll ultimately call tainun, as opposed to simcha, that comes from the nullification of consciousness, of conscious thought and rationality. It's bittul ha'asaga. Bittul ha'neshamas, or the nullification of the neshamas b'metzias, when the neshamas go out of their existence as souls. The ordin so baruch the leis machshava tefisa beh, as it says in Zohar, no thought can grasp him. No thought can grasp him. But beyond and deeper than thought, one can at least have some kind of grasp, some kind of sense of him. But the word grasp we usually reserve for bina, hasaga. But the Zohar says, leis machshava tefisa. Tefisa means to get a hold of it. You can't. And this is the revelation that we have on Shabbos. Shabbos is oining. Now, I'm waiting to just tell you this. Yes, Eliza, you mentioned the crown. So the crown is this ineffable, all-encompassing level into which Chokhmah has an interface, and it brings it down, right? But there are levels in that transcendent interface. The lower level is associated with Simcha, and the upper level is associated with Tainut, right? And we say this in Shabbos. Shabbos is called Oineg. We have parties called Oineg Shabbos, right? We have Simchas Yom Tov and Oineg Shabbos. So Simcha is Oineg is the panemius of the Kesef. And that's what's Mizgala on Shabbos. V'lochen Omru, and that's why our sages have said, that this was with difficulty. It was an interesting Nigladika idea, that it was difficult for the Chachamim to permit speaking Torah on Shabbos. Why? Because Torah is God's wisdom, and wisdom begins in Chokhmah, and Shabbos is above Chokhmah. So now you know the panemius of why the Chachamim said, we say in the Kiddush by daytime, what's we say? That we should hold back. I'm just saying in English. I don't have the Hebrew quite coming out of my mouth. Hold back from saying speech. It's written in the Kiddush on Shabbos, because and a lot of people that I don't know, but I've heard, in the culture of religious Jews, either refrain from or very conscious of not talking or talking as little as possible on Shabbos, and that has a very Kabbalistic roots, because dibur is a very external garment to the soul, and it's only a garment to the soul, and on Shabbos is revealed the essence of the soul. So Shabbos, so it was with difficulty the Chachamim allowed to speak words of Torah on Shabbos, because words of Torah come only from Hashem's Chachma. That's where they come from. Yotzei Slachutz, that's where they go out into speech. Kamei Nafkes Lebara, as they go to the outside. Shehiyah Ora Bilvad, it's just the Bilvad, it's a very external, speech is a very external thing compared to the oinig in the panemius of the crown. And it's only something which is coming out from the Chachma. Aval Atzmius of Chachma, the essence of Chachma.
What about when this year it doesn't apply, but when we have Yontif
And Shabbos together.
Side.
Well, what about it?
The male quality, or is that the female quality?
Sounds like, well, you got both, don't you? I mean, I'm improvising here just as you are. You have both. Somehow you have Simcha and Tainuk together. I don't have anything to say about that. But that's what we have to say is going on, because it's Yom Tov and it's Shabbos. Okay? So on Shabbos you're getting the panemius of the part of Chachma that attaches to the Etz Atzmius. This third line from the bottom. Atzmius of Chachma, Uroma v'nizgava. The essence of Chachma, not that lower part of Chachma which interfaces with Bina, but that higher part of Chachma which interfaces with the Ayin, is very, very exalted. Lamayla, higher and higher, much higher, than the Torah. Shabbos is a revelation higher than Torah. We're going to skip this parenthesis, and I think we might just stop and continue after this parenthesis.
Rabbi, can I ask you, did Shabbos pre-existed the giving of a Torah? Avoseno kept Shabbos before Torah was given?
Yes, the Amos and Amos kept the whole Torah before it was given. Now, how they kept it and exactly what they did.
The reason why I'm asking is you said that Shabbos, the concept of Shabbos, the bris of Shabbos and the bris of Torah
preceded the Torah. Yeah, we're not talking here in time. We're talking here.
No, I know
level.
you're not talking in time, Rabbi, but sometimes something either the Torah would supersede or enhance it, or something not earlier in time. I'm just wondering if perhaps earlier in time means it was a foundation. You said it's even more important than. Did you say it's more important than Torah? What was the expression? What was the expression you used?
That I used. That he used. Let's see. The essence of Chachma is much higher than the Torah.
Now, but you mentioned Shabbos, so Shabbos is the essence of Chochmah. You say, so you said Shabbos.
Shabbos is
the Torah.
Shabbos is the higher. Shabbos is the source. Shabbos is that which is infused into the higher part of Chochmah. Chochmah is already part of Seder Histalshelus. Shabbos is part of the crown.
You said that in the hierarchy of order, if there's a theoretical hierarchy, and I'm not saying it's
relative there is a hierarchy.
Other, you said to me that Shabbos supersedes Torah.
Right, Torah is Chochmah. That's the highest level of the Histalshelus. Chochmas Torah, the wisdom of the Torah. Chochmas Hashem is the wisdom of Hashem is expressed in the Torah. We're belittling that right now, if you could censor the thing, because that's the whole Seder Histalshelus. The whole Seder Histalshelus is garnished compared to the ayin itself, to the crown, and particularly to the highest levels of the crown, which is what Shabbos is. So therefore, Shabbos is much deeper than Shabbos is. Go ahead.
translate that into, is there another way we can phrase it in terms of high levels? Can we phrase it?
Is it what?
Shabbos, you're saying,
Shabbos is much deeper.
a deeper level than the Torah. Is that because of our
Yes.
closeness to a Kadosh Baruch Hu? Dios,
No, it's existentially, not nothing to do with us and him. Just the way existence is. If you talk from existence from
I understand what you're saying. Okay, I understand. Because
existentially,
all of creation is sustained, and creation ceased. The Kadosh Baruch Hu ceased to create when Shabbos came in for all of creation. That's the underlying blueprint which the Torah comes out on top of. That's the physical existence, the entire existence. I understand what you're saying. Shabbos is the link to the Kadosh Baruch Hu, which is basically a structural factor. I'm using structurally in a metaphysical sense, which is the basis of existence, or part of the structure of existence. What Torah is superimposed on that.
Shabbos is higher than the structure of existence, deeper than the structure of existence. The structure of existence begins with Chachma. Shabbos, return, Shov, go back up, beyond the chain, beyond the pillar, beyond the...
You're breaking up, Rabbi.
Let's go higher than the whole chain. The
So
whole
Shabbos
chain
is
is
right
the
at the
creation.
source. Shabbos is right at the source. Right at
Is
the
right-
source.
Is the source.
Okay.
Yeah.
Or it's linked to the source. It's not at the source. It's linked to the Kadosh Baruch Hu.
Okay, but you got it. Whatever words you want to have, but you got the subject.
Okay.
All right, we're going to stop, and so I just needed to see this parenthesis ends where. Well, I'll find it. We're kind of flipping the page. Okay, so next week we'll flip the page. If I have time, I'll try to chunk it out so we could get back to matzah, because that's what we will get back to matzah one way or another.
Good.
After, okay,
Pesach?
but before Pesach, we'll get back to matzah in this manner. All right, we'll see you, God willing, next week.
Before we sell the chametz, right?
Yeah,
Joe?
definitely before. All right, guys. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rabbi.
You got it.
Thank you. Have a good week.
Thank you.